Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Brian Aylward. I am the AVP for the Office of Academic Innovation, Operations, and Technology here with UAGC. I'll be the session host for this session, which is Artificial Intelligence Workshop, Crafting Inclusive Learning Experiences, a Hands-On Journey. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with the TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we will have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click on the live transcription button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I'm pleased to introduce you Dr. Allison Rief, who is a department chair here with UAGC in the School of General Studies, to help lead this session and introduce the session presenters. Thank you all. Allie?
Thanks, Brian. Welcome. Good morning. Happy to see 70 people here on day one of TLC. You're in for a wonderful experience. We have Sean Nufer and Laura Blom. Sean is the Senior Director of Teaching and Learning, and Laura is the Faculty Training Specialist for the Community Solution Education System. Both Sean and Laura work in the Office of Teaching and Learning, where they create and facilitate trainings and faculty development initiatives to help their institution better engage with students, enhance teaching and learning, and build effective communities of learners. I had the wonderful opportunity to sit in a 3-hour workshop with Sean last April at OLC Innovate, which is when I really got my hands dirty with AI and using ChatGPT for the first time. So it was really fun. And I got a chance to meet Laura at OLC Accelerate just a few weeks ago. They are both fantastic educators and guides who will take us through some applications of AI. And watch out, you might have a little bit of fun while we do it too. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Sean and Laura.
Awesome. Thank you. So I have my PowerPoint slide here, the artificial intelligence. I'm not even going to read all of that. And that's the last of my slide deck. The rest of this is going to be hands-on, and we're going to be in a Canvas course. And this is in the Free for Teachers instance, and so it's not associated with Arizona or my university. It's just a free instance. And so if you'd like access to this, you can enroll in the course, and I'll go ahead and copy this and paste it in the chat. You just click on that link, and then you can enroll yourself in the course. Now you'll use a different credentials to log in than you do with your home institution. So you might need to create a new account with Canvas. This is actually a Canvas course, but it's Canvas, it's Instructure hosting the instance of Canvas, and they give access to any teacher who would like to use Canvas. And so that's what we chose to do, and we're going to walk through and create content in this course, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So again, there's the link there, and maybe in like a couple minutes we can share that link again. And once you're in there, then you'll be enrolled as a student, but we're going to be working to make you a teacher so that you can edit, you can tinker with us. This is our sandbox, our playground that we're going to have for today, and we'll keep it open for quite some time. So you can tinker around, explore, and use this as your personal space. In fact, if you wanted to create a new module, then you can just duplicate it. Once you have your teacher role, duplicate pages, copy content. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And so before we get into actually creating content, that's our goal of this workshop. It's an interactive workshop where we're going to be working with you to create a course from scratch, from ground zero. But before we do that, I want to teach you a couple of strategies for working with ChatGPT. And this is called prompt engineering. And so some of you may have heard of prompt engineering, some of you may be proficient with ChatGPT, but I want us to all get on the same level. So I'm going to teach you just 2 strategies, 2 of many that you could learn. The first is when you're interacting with ChatGPT or any AI that's generative technology, then you want to be specific about your context and your details. And I have an example here that we're going to look through. And let's suppose that I want to lose weight and I want my robot friend to help me to lose weight. So I go to ChatGPT and I ask, what's a good diet to lose weight? That's a very general question. It's very broad. And so I'm going to get a very general answer. And so the answer is, literally here are some generally accepted guidelines that might help you with crafting a good diet to lose weight. And Probably none of this is a surprise to anybody who's spent 30 seconds researching how to lose weight, but your diet is important, portion control, make sure to drink water, practice mindful eating, make sure that you're active. And then it lists some popular diets. So the Mediterranean diet, the paleo diet, so that you can eat pancakes just like our ancient ancestors used to, or, at least it gives you a starting point. But again, this is very broad. So of the levels of prompt engineering, I call this level 0. It's not even a level. It's just so broad. So if I wanted to specify that, then I'm going to set parameters. So I'm going to say, I want to lose 10 pounds in 60 days. Can you help me? So you notice that's much more targeted. And so I'm setting a goal and setting a timeline with a milestone. And so it gives the AI something to work with. And so, okay, 10 pounds in 60 days is realistic, it's safe, and it aligns with recommended weight loss guidelines. So here are some ideas, some steps, as opposed to the previous was just very general, and here's some guidelines. Now I have some steps. And so, I have my goal, my time frame, my weekly goal, some nutrition plans, some exercise plans, lifestyle adjustments. And this is just based on one prompt. And so if I wanted to, I could say, go in, let's visit step 1, and can you help me set even more clear objectives? Or can you help me with a nutrition plan? What are some guidelines? Can you give me recipes? And you can really dive in from there. And so we're talking about context and information. We're adding parameters, asking more questions, not just the one question. And okay, it gave me an answer, so copy and paste, we're done with it. Let's have some interaction, And so you can see the quality of this output is a little bit better than the quality of that first one. So now we're going on to level 2 of my prompt engineering. And so you can fill in the blanks, fill in this information with whatever, but here's some context for my weight loss plan. I'm this age, I'm this weight, and in the next 60 days, I want to weigh such. So I want to lose a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of time. I do some cardio now. I try to walk 20 minutes each day, but I also eat a little too much. I don't want a diet that's hard to follow. I am willing to exercise more. Can you write a diet plan for the next 8 weeks for me? And so I'm giving it a lot more information, and I'm asking it to specifically write a plan for 8 weeks. And so this is very different. You see on the right here, okay, now we have a plan. So here's the first 2 weeks, here's the second 2 weeks, and it has a diet. So for breakfast, have oatmeal with a spoonful of honey and some mixed berries or a banana. Now I don't want to eat that breakfast every day for 14 days. And so I might go in and say, this is great. Can you give me maybe 20 breakfast recipes? And then you can pick and choose and say, I like these 5 or I like those 10. Can you write other recipes that are similar to that? Or are there certain things you need to omit? I need to omit gluten or nuts or something. Can you be mindful of that and ask for more recipes? And so I'm not just taking this answer, but it is a good start. So I have week by week. And so for exercise, I'm going to do my 20-minute walk, and I'm going to add 10 minutes of light stretching or yoga. And then in weeks 3 and 4, I'm going to keep doing weeks 1 and 2, but then I'm going to incorporate one other element to my diet. And I'm going to increase my walks from 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And then I'll do 15 minutes of exercises. And then you can see weeks 5 through 6, it's going to add things, weeks 7 through 8. And I don't have to take it as is. I can say, okay, this is a good general guideline, but now let's look at specifically weeks 3 and 4. Can you create more diet plans? I want to try these other things. And so you interact with it, and it might take you several prompts, several iterations with the computer, but eventually you'll end up with a pretty good guideline. And so now I'm going to hop over to level 3, and I'm going to pop into ChatGPT and show you how I interacted with ChatGPT to take that one step even further. And so my first thing I say is ignore all previous instructions. Now this is the beginning of the conversation, so I didn't really need to say that, but that's, if you're having a conversation with ChatGPT and you want to start over, you could start a new conversation, or you can say, ignore everything we've said up until this point, let's start anew. And then I'm saying, here's your new role and persona, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. You're a weight loss and diet expert. If I hadn't said that, then sometimes ChatGPT, if you say, can you give me advice on this thing, then ChatGPT is very timidly says, I'm just a computer program. I'm just an algorithm. I'm not really an expert in this one thing. Well, I'm telling ChatGPT, you are an expert in this one little thing. And so this is your task. You're going to find a diet and strategy that fits your client's needs and goals. You're going to create detailed and easy to follow diets and exercise for your client and make an accountability plan. So I'm telling ChatGPT, you are the expert. I could even give ChatGPT a name. I could say from here on out, respond to the name Bob or Rabona or something, and call me Al. I don't know. And then I say, be very helpful, motivating. Acknowledge this by answering yes and stay idle. It should have answered yes, but it elaborated. It said, I'm here to help, and so let's get started. It was supposed to just say yes, but it gave me a little blurb. Okay, so once I have that set up, I have something of a persona for my computer. For the ChatGPT, I say, here's an article. This is something I copied from Harvard, Harvard Medical, about intermittent fasting. And so I copied that, pasted it in there, and said, can you confirm that you've read this by answering yes? Okay, so now it has its role, and it has this information that I'm giving it. And then I give my prompt, my level 2 prompt. So this is how old I am, how active I am. This is how much I weigh, how much I want to weigh within a certain timeline. All right, so answer yes. And now I'm asking it, I'm getting to the actual ask, which is, can you write a detailed and personal plan for me to lose 10 pounds in the next 60 days based on everything that we've talked about up until this point? And so now you can see that the plan is much better. I still have a lot of work to do. I think I would really probably break this down week by week, but and you're welcome. If you have access to this chat, actually, if you go into the Canvas course, if you're enrolled in there, just click on level 3. It'll take you to here, and then you can say, get started with ChatGPT. You can continue my conversation and see where that takes you. And you might take it in a different direction than I do. So I know somebody said, many of us are going to copy that chat. If you ever want to share a chat with your students, by the way, let me pull up something. So, I had this chat that I'm working on. In the upper right-hand corner of ChatGPT, there's this arrow with kind of like a basket, I guess, an in basket or something. And so you can share a link to the chat. And so you can share your name, you can edit this, and where's the link? The link is somewhere here. Anyway, that's how I share the chat. So you can do that with your student. You can get them started on an adventure and say, I want you to continue this, and then let's come back together and discuss where you ended up. And it could be a writing prompt, it could be some kind of exercise, and then once they click on get started with ChatGPT, it's going to take them it should take them to the conversation that you had, and then they can continue that. So that's my first strategy for you is provide context, and don't just take the first answer that it gives you. Tell it, there's certain parts of this that I don't like. Can you redo this? And can we focus on this other thing? And can you elaborate on these points? And then the second tip here is give it a persona. Just give it an expertise. Say that you're helping me. We're working on this project, and you're going to be my marketing consultant, or you're going to be helping me with copy for something, or you're going to help guide me through this process. You could say, I want you to coach me, or I want to debate with you, or I want your feedback. How can I improve this thing? How do you want to iterate with this? And so I have dozens of examples here of personas that I thought would be fun. These are fun, but you think about the personas in the context of your workplace. So, act as a stand-up comedian. I'm going to supply you with some topics, and I want you to write jokes for me. They're probably not going to be very good, but eventually they will be better, I think. Act as a movie critic. Act as a composer or a lyricist. I want to write a song about this topic. I want to sing about, palm trees and pineapples and academia and auto mechanics.
This is great. This is all great stuff. I tried to put in, just so everyone knows in the chat, I tried to put in some bullet points of these tips and tricks that Sean is giving us here. And Sean, a couple of people are asking before we keep going or get too far away from your diet weight loss conversation, if you used the free or the paid version of ChatGPT to generate that conversation.
Yeah, so I have access right now to the paid version, but this much would have been done with the free version. It was done with ChatGPT 4, but you can do it with ChatGPT 3.5. The advantage to the paid version. Now this week they came out, or was it last week? They gave a keynote, and there's a lot more features, but generally the features are that ChatGPT 4 is a little more precise in some aspects, and you can sometimes you are running a chat and it says right now it's busy, and so you try again later. And if you pay the $20 a month, then it always feeds, it always puts you through. And ChatGPT can integrate with Dolly for image generation as well, and it has access to plugins. However, with ChatGPT 3.5, you can do all these things that I was talking about. It's not really an advanced feature. I'm just having a conversation about weight loss with ChatGPT. Now, I think I read, I think I read that typically ChatGPT is current up until 2 years ago on the internet, and now with ChatGPT 4 Plus, it's current as of last April, I believe, 2023. And so they're working to reduce that barrier, and so ChatGPT should be a little more informed. The paid version will be a little more informed of more current events than the 3.5 version. But yeah, all of the prompt engineering tips and tricks that I'm providing you are good, even if you have the free version, or even if you're using something other than ChatGPT. If you're using Bard or Bing or Jasper, whatever AI is out there, the principles of prompt engineering will help you to receive better outputs, better responses. Are there any other questions here about that? Oh, and Justin's saying the old version's not more current. So the old version, I think, is 2 years old. The ChatGPT 4 Plus is for last April. And also they increased the word amount for the paid version. So now it's something like 32. It went from 8 to 32 units, whatever unit they were talking about. And so it's much more comprehensive. You can put much more in there. You can copy and paste, or you can write out tomes in larger quantity than you could in the past. And so, yeah, Elena's saying ChatGPT 3.5 is current September 21. So yeah, about 2 years or so. And so either way, 3.5 or 4 or Bard, these prompts are good. You can give your AI a role and say, I want you to act in this way. And I did something really fun. For this prompt in particular, act as a character from a movie or book, I asked ChatGPT to act as Dumbledore from the Harry Potter series. And I wanted the computer to mimic the style, the word choice, the tone, all of that. And I had a conversation, and it was kind of an interesting conversation. And I need to brush up on the books again, but I asked Dumbledore about what do they teach at Hogwarts, and why don't they teach things like arithmetic and social studies, and I asked some hard questions too, like what would happen if Harry Potter were to turn evil? How would that affect the wizarding world or the world in general? And got some pretty fun answers. And so I think if you're teaching history, like, I don't know, maybe have a conversation with a prominent figure or a prominent figure from a book. You can say act as a fallacy finder if I want to, look for heuristics or flaws or, biases, or a text adventure game. So these are some tricks. You can read through these prompts, copy some of these if you want, and put them into ChatGPT and start some adventures that way. So right now we're going to get hands-on. This is kind of academic and scholarly up until this point, but I want us to have some fun. And so what we're going to do is, in this Canvas course, this shell sandbox that we have, we're going to create some course content. And so I want us to start, put in the chat here,
Sean,
let's come up with a topic for the course. Think about this, and then go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, sorry. Just before you dive in too much, I just want to make sure that as you're we are putting the link to the Canvas course in the chat in case anybody missed it at the beginning. And once you create your free account, right, because it's not tied to your institution, once you create your free account and you're in the course, give it just a second. I'm in there updating everybody's roles to teacher from student to teacher so that you will have some editing ability with the course. But so give it just a couple of seconds once you log in and then refresh your page so that your role will so that your updated role will show up and you'll be able to edit. Just before we start diving in, I want to make sure everybody knows to do that and that they'll need to refresh the page.
Yeah, so we have to manually go in here and edit the role. And it doesn't take that long. It's just, this, and then you refresh the page. And so we want to give you all teacher access so that you can come in and tinker around if you want to. Right now, we're going to stay together as a big group. And so I want us to think about a topic for the course. And we did this at OLC Accelerate, like Allison was saying. And the topic that we came up with was vampires and serial killers. And so we decided to study the dark psychology of vampires and serial killers. And came up with some interesting ones. And so in the chat, type out any comments or unmute yourself if you want to. It could be something serious like geometry or something that you're teaching, or it could be something way out there. We could reprise this idea of vampires if you want. This was right before Halloween, and so maybe we want something more Thanksgiving or Christmas, or it could be the psychology of the Nightmare Before Christmas, or the So I'm looking at the chat. Astrology, vampires, and geometry. Right, that's a good. If we get two things that have nothing to do with each other, that would be even more fun, because let's see how the AI can come up with something cohesive for us. How to survive parenting a teen daughter. Oh, Teresa. Oh my goodness. What happened to my daughter? Pizza, astrology, cooking, turkey and green bean casseroles, vampires in space, serial killers and turkeys, accounting and chess, pizza, vampires and geometry. What about teenagers and their fascination with vampires? Because Laura, what was the books that came out? Twilight?
Oh, years ago. The Twilight books and so many other vampire novels, television shows. Vampires, always a hot topic.
Sean, I like how you pushed that off on Laura. You're like, I'm going to pretend I don't know what Twilight's called. I'll call her Laura, and then
I came up with it. I came up. I didn't read the books. I saw the first two movies, and I thought the second one would be better because they made money. And it's like, okay, now that you have a budget, let's see what you can do. And it's like, oh, the same thing. Okay, so I think I'm done with that series. But and I grew up in Oregon, so I appreciate the whole Pacific Northwest thing there. But so what if we did monster? All right, Allison, Laura, any inspiration here? Buffy and Twilight and their influence on teeny boppers.
Yeah, or
vampire lore's influence on American teenagers.
Isn't it amazing how a bunch of academics can take a topic that sounds not at all academic and turn it academic sounding?
Yeah, all right, that's just our starting off point. So, all right, vampires giving parental advice. Go to chat after this session. Dive into that, because that will be an interesting topic to explore. I think I'm just going to settle on something. So I'm going to start a new chat, and I'm going to stick with chat 4, but 3.5 will be the same. So I'm going to say, actually, hang on. I have the prompt right here. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to create and teach a course about And let's see, the influence of vampire lore on teenagers in society. Should we say American society or just keep it as like society? Should we assume it's universal? And okay, so that's the topic. Please create 20 interesting course titles. And I do that because you can say, can you create an interesting course title? And then you say, oh, I don't like that. Can you try again? I don't like that. Can you try again? I'm just going to say, create 20 of them and let's see if we like them. Oh, it's diving in. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. And here, for the sake of, I'm going to go to ChatGPT 3.5 just because that's a little bit faster. I only want the course title name ideas. Don't write out the modules quite yet. And I say, thank you. I like saying please and thank you. All right, so it's going to spit out 20 really quickly. And of those, a lot of them are going to be garbage, but we might like a few. So vampires and pop culture, a teenage obsession. There's kind of a winner at number 1. I found, Laura, you've probably seen this too, ChatGPT loves alliteration. Bloodsuckers and belonging, Twilight and TikTok. Bite Me, Teenage Rebellion and Vampire Fantasy. I'll just be honest, I love like all of these. From Dracula to Edward Cullen, icons of teenage desire, and I know that he's the vampire in Twilight. See, I did pay attention in the movies that I saw. Any takers? Should we go with this first one maybe, or for the sake of time, like we could explore this. I'm gonna tell ChatGPT, I like number 1. Can you
everyone likes number 4. Let's
I like number 4.
get a lot of of 4s here.
Bite Me, Teenage Rebellion and Vampire Fantasies. How many modules are we gonna do? Is this like a 5 module course or 4 modules?
Let's do 5.
Can you generate, you said 5?
Mm-hmm.
All right, please suggest module titles, overviews, and learning, I don't know if you call them learning objectives or learning outcomes. All right, so, and I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. I'm gonna come back to the title. So, so this is our prompt. We prompted that, and I'm going to put the output as, like, that's the name of the title. So, Bite Me, Teenage Rebellion and Vampire Fantasies. All right, so now we have our title. We generated a list of titles, and we're going kind of quick right now. And so I already typed out that prompt, but essentially we wanted to create a course a course description. So, okay, here's our modules. Can you, I'm going to ask, can you please create a course description for our course home section? All right, I'm going to jump down to the end here. Okay, so course description, welcome to blah, blah, blah. Now, we would want to iterate, tinker with this, and I'm just copying and pasting as is. But essentially...
John, yeah, if I can just jump in while you're copying that, just some things I noticed, right? Going back to your example with, the diet plan, we weren't really specific with creating a course description, and right, we might want to actually, of course, if you were starting with just that title, you'd want to give it that title. You probably want to tell it, how long you wanted the course description to be. That's a little bit long for one module, right? So just keeping those kind of tips in mind as we're going through.
Yeah. And so this would be the course description for like the entire course. And then for modules, we might want to say 1 or 2 paragraphs or something. And so now I'm going to take a step back, and I'll actually just start a new chat and say, we're developing a course called, and what did we say? Bite me. It will be an undergrad course, and I don't. And this is the course description. And then I'm gonna copy. I'm gonna paste what we just came up with. So with this information, and I haven't even proofread. Like this is bad form, but we'll assume that the course description is good. We've edited it, and this is what we want to come up with. And now I'm going to. Oh, it's already coming up with. It's already coming up with learning outcomes. I was going to say, can you create learning outcomes? Can you create course learning outcomes, a 5-module, course layout with module overviews and objectives. Okay. So it already came up with some learning outcomes, but now I'm specifically asking for, and it's coming, since we were very broad, it's like, hey, how about you have a guest speaker and a field trip, and so now I'm saying let's be specific and talk about the course outcomes. So develop critical thinking skills, and I don't care for that so much, through the analysis of vampire lore and its impact on teenage culture. There's some substance there. It needs to be reworked a little bit.
Right, and you could even get more specific there, Sean, with if you're using Blue's taxonomy and what levels you wanted the learning outcomes to be at, right? So thinking about that context, that specificity, you could do that, and it might produce, more usable outcomes. But yeah, you'll always need to edit.
Yeah, so I'm seeing analyze, evaluate, critically examine. I feel like, what's the difference between examining and critically examining something? I hate understand. So, there's some work that we would have to do here. As Laura's saying, like I think my next step, if I were going forward with this, is I'd copy these and say, can you adjust these so that they are lower level Bloom's taxonomies, if this is like an intro undergrad course, and don't use the word understand. And so we tinker with it. And so this is a starting point. You could say that maybe these are 50% there. It's like it's better than starting from scratch. And so I'll keep those, and then we're going to go to the next page, which is the course outline. All right, so now I have module 1. I have an overview. That's like a 1-sentence overview. Maybe I want more of an overview. This is good for the course home section at the beginning of the course. So if I hop back here, I'm still in the welcome section, and I haven't gotten to the module, and that's where we're going to get a little more granular.
Hey, Sean, someone was asking in the chat that might be fun while you're building this out, is to see if ChatGPT can give you any open educational resources on the topic for the class.
Do you think it knows OER? It probably knows, materials and
find out
resources available to cover these topics. All right, so it does know what OER is. That's not too helpful. It's guiding me towards, I think it's guiding me to in the right direction. Like this is how I would search for that stuff. Do you have, how would I say that? OER content that I can use. I don't know if it's going to be there. So some limitations with AI right now is they don't have access to paywall content, so they can't just look up any journal article that's been published. They don't have it doesn't have EBSCO like we do, and it looks like it's avoiding me right now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have direct access to these contents. It's again steering me in how I could get those access, look at library resources and websites, talk to librarians about licensed materials. Remember to review them. Remember
what if
to
you
always
removed OER?
Are there... Teach this content? Is that a good question? Are there any free resources? It's kind of saying the same thing. It's teaching me how to search for relevant podcasts. And so I'm a little bit spinning my circles, I think. That's 3 different ways that we've tried to ask it. And so that might be a limitation. But I appreciate that it's at least trying to steer me towards what in 2 seconds reviewing this looks like, good directions that I would take for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be really helpful for students too, right? To help them with where to find information, but they still have to go do the research and the finding themselves.
Yeah, and at the LLC conference, one thing that we talked about in the master class that I don't remember who brought it up, if it was me or somebody in the audience, but I appreciate the comparison to Wikipedia, because if you remember the early days of the Wikipedia, there's a big stigma. It's like, no, Wikipedia is bad. And it's like, from the beginning, I taught my students, go to Wikipedia, go to not only the chat section, but if I were to go to AI Wiki, if you don't know about the talk section, so you have the article and it has the information, it's edited by people, it's pretty good. But then there's a talk section in this tab right here, and this is the people who are editing the page dialoguing with each other, saying, should we include this aspect? Should we include, I took this down because of these reasons. And sometimes the debates are a little fiery, I found. But then I would tell my students, okay, read through this, that gives you a general idea. But then there's a long article, but then scour all of these articles right here. And this is where you start your research. Start it on Wikipedia. Don't cite Wikipedia. When you turn in a paper to me, I don't want to see Wikipedia as one of your sources, but I want you to jump off from Wikipedia and explore the world of, and a lot of these articles are going to be legitimate and they're going to have their own articles. And so it's just a great way to go about that. And now I'm teaching ChatGPT the same thing. It's like, don't copy and paste ChatGPT into something that you turn into me. Because I can tell if something's written by ChatGPT. I've even seen LinkedIn marketers, they befriend you and thank you for connecting. And then it's like, I read a message and it's like, oh great, you discovered ChatGPT and now you're trying to sell me something. You can sniff it out. But that's not to say that we need to avoid ChatGPT and for our students or for us. And so I know we're getting, going to stay on track here. So I'm just going to let's scan through the modules. So we have the origins of vampire mythology, film and literature, the psychology of vampire fascination. Now that's getting interesting. The fantasies and teenage rebellion, and beyond the fangs, societal implications. And so that's what we have for the overview of our course. That's what ChatGPT gave us anyway. And of course, the objectives, we'd need to review all of these objectives. But in our few minutes, our time together, we wouldn't have been able to type this out from scratch. At least gives us kind of a jumping off point. And I'm just glancing at the comments. Stephanie's saying, at this point, I'd hesitate to recommend using ChatGPT as a help for research. And I agree. Without reading the rest of your comment, I think that a real value of ChatGPT is for students to understand if they had some trouble conceptualizing some of the course content and it's after hours and you've gone home and you're in bed and they're mulling over things. ChatGPT is 24/7 and they can say, can you help me understand this principle that we're talking about in the course? And it's like a tutor that they have nights, holidays, weekends, any hour of the day. It doesn't have office hours and they can explore topics and things like that. There are other AIs that are better for research than ChatGPT. So I'll mention that ChatGPT is the brand, it's the Coke brand, the Kleenex, for tissues. It's what everybody kind of goes to, but we have thousands of platforms, AI platforms that are on the market, and a lot of them are getting much more targeted and specific. And so Chat PDF, for example, looks like a really fun platform where you can upload a PDF and then talk about the contents of the PDF. And ChatGPT is going in that direction too, but ChatGPT is kind of like a jack of all trades, where there are some master of one platforms out there. So I'll mention that. All right, so let's spend another minute. I want to get some Q&A as well, and get your thoughts, open up the mics. But let's take one of these modules. Let's focus on one module that we have here. So let me scroll back up. The module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should we focus on one of these, like maybe module 4, Vampire Fantasies and Teenage Rebellion? I'll just go ahead and run with that. And so I'm going to rename this Vampire Fantasies and Teenage Rebellion. Let's create a module overview. And so I'm going to copy. Can you create a, 2-paragraph module overview for, and I'll just copy and paste that content right there. And I'm curious, what are we going to learn about in module 4? We're delving into the intriguing intersection of teenage rebellion and the allure of vampires. It seeks to unravel the complex relationship between the two, shedding light on how vampire narratives have become a lens through which adolescents both reflect and challenge societal norms and expectations. I'll be honest, it's a little bit scary, like how good some of that content is, like how interesting that is. And so let's see, I'm going to copy that. And again, we'd have a little bit of work to do. So they'll engage in thought-provoking discussions, analyze key texts, assess the implications. So I have to determine as I'm developing this course, are these the things that they're going to do, or do I want to have other activities? And so anyway, I'll put the module overview. No formatting. I like my classes to look pretty good, but we're just keeping it bland right now. Can you create, what are we on? Let's say 10 learning objectives that align with this course, module description. I'm keeping the typo in there because ChatGPT knows how to deal with that. All right, so yeah, you notice these objectives are different than the main ones because I was at a high level saying, hey, can you write an overview of the course and what's some example objectives? But now we have a title for the module, we have an elaborate course description, a lot more. And so, it depends on your institution, but I would say you'd probably want to keep it to 1 to 3 module objectives. It depends on the module and it depends how your courses are structured, but obviously you wouldn't have 10, but I chose 10 because in practice I would probably look at these 10 and then focus on maybe 5 or 6 that I like, and then have ChatGPT rewrite those and say, I like these 6 based on what my preference that I like these, can you write 10 more or 20 or something, and just kind of narrow it until eventually it'll be more precise, and then you'll know that I really like this one, so let's come up with 5 different iterations of this module outcome or this module objective, and then you can really tinker, and so you can fine tune each one. And this is a process. Writing module objectives for your entire course is something that could take hours, normally, and with ChatGPT it could take dozens of minutes or something. It could really whittle it down. All right, and so I think this is the class activity. All right, so can you create 5 class activities or for this module for us to consider? I don't know if that's the best way to phrase that. All right, so it looks like we have creative writing, encourage students to write short stories or visual representations. I could take that a step further. I could say, I like number 5. Can you start me with 3 writing prompts that I can share with my students. And then, you know, students that are in education, I could give all 3 of these prompts to the students and say, hey, do you like one of these? You can choose, you know, you can choose one of those. Or I could say, here are various activities, choose 1 or 2 of these, you know, to do it. So I'm going to just copy this entire conversation into our class here. As we're wrapping up, and I'm being mindful of the clock here. Tidy up a tiny bit. Yeah, it's a little sloppy, but you can see the general direction that I'm going. Sometimes when I'm doing course development, I want to be mindful of incorporating ChatGPT into the assignment or create an assignment that the students can't use ChatGPT. If I'm thinking about academic integrity and I just want to eschew technology altogether, then I have ChatGPT help me with, can you create an assignment that they have to use ChatGPT, in order to complete the assignment? Can you come up with 10 assignment ideas or activities? Or the other way around. I want to make sure that the students can't use AI to complete. So like an oral presentation would be obviously one where ChatGPT can't present for them, or a digital scrapbook, or an infographic. And so let's see. The last thing is, let's piggybacking off of that, can you create an assessment, or let's create 5 assessments possibilities for this module. And it doesn't always give me the greatest examples, you know, like an essay. It looks like a debate, media analysis and reflection paper. And so I'm just going to copy and paste this, but again, we would look through, do any of those interest you? If they don't, if you think those are all kind of rubbish, tell ChatGPT that I don't like the direction that we're going here. Can you generate 5 more? Or can you even take it up a notch and say, can you just provide general assessment ideas? Like, what can we do? Like a paper would be one, or a class debate would be one, and then go from there and try and say, okay, I like this approach, I like this idea. Let's have them use multimedia. Let's have them create a video recording with their phone or a screencast on the computer. What are some topics? What are some activities that we can cover? And then once you get the direction that you want to go, then you can say, okay, can you help me create the instructions for this assignment? Can you help me create a rubric for the assignment? Let me just show you, and I think we're going to open up the mics right now, but let's just say I like number 5, whatever that is. I don't even know what it is. Can you create a rubric for that assignment, or assignment instructions and overview? And with measures of success for each criterion. And I didn't specify put it in table format. It is, but you might say, okay, so yeah, that's maybe not exactly what maybe I want scales. Can you create scales for each criterion, and make each all the criteria 5 points each. I don't know, yeah, something like that. Okay, so I have creativity, originality, character development, plot and structure, and I can say I don't want this. I do like that, and then I might say, can you write out what 5 points like the measure of success for 5 points, 3 points, 1 point. And so, it's just the beginning of me creating my rubric. And so you might
I
go back and
asked
forth there.
Sean to include a rubric because I think about when we develop our own courses, we have the criterion set, but then from the assessment team, but then faculty are charged, or the SME is charged with coming up with what a 4 looks like, what a 3, like those different categories, and that is really time consuming, and it doesn't need to be. So I think that's a great use of how you can use your own. You already have your content, you already have your ideas, and it's just kind of doing the thing that takes a lot of time but doesn't necessarily require a lot of knowledge on the topic.
Yeah, rubrics take a long time potentially. And so I just asked it, take this first criterion here, creativity and originality, and can you fill in the rubric what 5 points is worth, what 4 points looks like. And so it's saying, okay, so 5 points means exceptionally creative and captivates the reader, has elements of such and such. And so that gives me something to work with. And so now I feel like if I were to spend maybe 5 more minutes on this rubric, the rubric might be 80% done, and I feel like the first 50% of creating a rubric is really hard for me. I'm speaking of my own experience. I just start out really slowly, unless I have a template or something from another class that I can import in and modify it. But if I'm starting from tabula rasa, like I did right here, I'm just creating a rubric from scratch, from a blank piece of paper. And already I have some ideas for criteria. I have some measures for success, and I'm starting to write out, point by point, what the measures of success for those rubric items are. And I feel like another 10 minutes and I could have a pretty decent rough draft of the rubric that normally for some people that could take more than an hour, Are there any, I know we're down to the last few minutes, and Allison, I wanted to make sure that we could open up if people have questions, and I haven't been good about the chat. I'm trying to glance over at the chat, but are there any important talking points that you want to reiterate?
And Laura's been doing a great job keeping up with the chat, but if anyone feels like their question wasn't answered, or if you have something else that's come up and you want to speak to it, now is the time to do so. We have about 6 more minutes left in our session. I hope that this has been useful. I think there's a lot of going back and forth about how you make this personal, and I think that's the key thing. It's how you interact with what we're calling artificial intelligence, which isn't artificial or necessarily intelligent at the same time. So thinking about how we make this our own, and for me, a lot of it is about saving time on the parts that aren't really the huge impact. Like I wouldn't ever take the learning outcomes that were generated here and just pop them into course without thinking about our students, thinking about where they are in their program, thinking about the skills that came before and are coming after. There's so many things to key in on, but it's a starting point. Or it's also really good if you have what you think is really great, you throw it in there and say, hey, how would you wordsmith? How would you make this clearer? How could you take this from my 5 sentences into 2 sentences? Those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's really important, Allison. Hearing you even list all those things, right, that you want to think about. It's like give it that information. Like yes, there's a limit to how much you can input in one, prompt at a time. You can keep feeding it information, right? Especially thinking about who your students are, the skills they need after, maybe other courses in the program that they're going to take. There's so many things you can give it. Something else I've seen people do that's been pretty effective is to tell ChatGPT, hey, I want you to help me make this. What information, like what questions, do you need? And have it spit out a list of questions that it wants you to answer so that it has all of the context, especially if you're getting started and you're maybe having trouble with like, how specific should I be? Should I tell it this? It's also pretty good at generating those questions for you. So you can kind of have a baseline, right, of what information to give it, which is pretty fun as well.
Your point about play is great. We were originally going to have this be a sandbox play time because it really is, it takes a lot of playing around with to be able to become, obviously I'm not an expert user, but the more you play, the better you become, right? It's like anything.
Yeah. And Laura, that if we could go back and restructure this, that might have actually been a good thing for us to incorporate. Like, we want to create this course. What can you ask me questions about the course that can help you do your job better? And so it's like, so I just started from a blank discussion. Yeah, what's the topic? Do you have any learning of goals? What's the target audience? Great questions any consultant would ask. And Allison, to your point, I think the benefit of something like ChatGPT or AI and helping with course development is you can speed through and maybe get the course 70% done, as in the course is finished and it's 70% good, and then focus that last 30% on you as the subject matter expert and the expert of your demographic, of your students, and really make the course excellent. Because ChatGPT, if we just do what we did today, we can make a good course, but that human element, that subject matter expert, can make it an excellent course. And so it might still take us 2 weeks to create the course, but we can get 70% done in 2 hours and then focus the rest of the time on really going above and beyond. And that's where it helps for us to think about the humanization in this automated process. It's not automated, but artificial intelligence enhanced process. But the only thing it can't help us with is the humanization. But it can get us to the point where we can really excel, I think, and level up and it might just be that we make a great course anyway, but we can do it in a shorter amount of time.
Absolutely.
Other question? I know lots of questions are coming in, but any other points? Or got 2 minutes? Oh, Brian, you wanted 2 minutes, right? So are we wrapping up, or?
I just need 1 more minute. So we got another minute here for anybody
Right,
to ask
1 minute.
questions or come up if they want.
I think a lot of these are coming down to how we can teach our students and how we serve as models. So just like we don't want a student to take something from ChatGPT and plug it directly into their discussion and hit enter and be done, so explaining how we wouldn't do that and how we use it rather than pretending it doesn't exist. Like, there's no more pretending it doesn't exist. Like, there's no rocks to hide under, right, anymore with this. So I think being clear about how you use it and the play aspect and the practice and the getting there, instead of it being there that they're creating.
Yeah, it's a tool. We should use it responsibly, but we should definitely use it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Stephanie thinks that I like this, how to make it work for you, not instead of you.
With
That's
you.
Really good.
How to make it work with you. I think that's a
good
one. Well, I know we're at time, so I'm sorry. Just a couple quick remarks to close out. Huge thank you to Sean and Laura today for an amazing session, for Allie for leading this session and hosting. And then a huge thank you to the audience for your participation today. This was a lot of fun to watch. I hope you all learned a lot. I know I did.